What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Truly Strange Show with your host, Truly Christian and Pete the Strange. Welcome. Welcome to episode 4.
Yo, I feel
Yo,
welcomed.
you're welcomed.
Thank you.
Everyone out there is welcome. Let us know you're alive.
Yeah.
We got a couple of people watching. Send us a chat. Send us a comment. Come out of the lurker. Come out of the lurker. Play in the chat. Glad you're here tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, thanks for coming out. Thanks for joining me in this endeavor once more.
Always.
Thanks to McMo for filling in last time. I think we had a week or two off. I don't know. Hard to tell.
Yeah. Life is crazy. And here we are on a Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the Friday vibe. Maybe that's the thing. I don't know.
It's better for you. Friday's better for you.
Friday's better for me. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, we know that. We all know that's the truth. Man, so a lot of you were on vacation last week, right?
Yeah.
We discussed in the grand land of Pigeon Forge, Dollywood.
Yes, sir.
Straight up Americana, Southern.
I will say, okay, so I'm from California.
Oh.
And I grew up going to Disneyland. That place is a mystical, magical place.
Truly.
And I just didn't think there was any place. This is not a paid advertisement. Dolly did not contact me, although I did see her in a Mexican restaurant down the street one time with my friend Will. So there you go. But that was as close as we got. Dolly did not support this. I will say, Dollywood, it has an it factor. Like it's a cool place, man. Like I went there going, this is going to be lame. I mean, I've been to Disneyland my whole life. But I think they hired somebody from Disneyland to transport the it factor.
Consultant. They're all just turning them into the same thing, losing their identities.
But it was fun. My kids played bumper cars they drove bumper cars for hours.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was fun.
They just let you just keep going, rolling.
Just get back in line.
Man, I started back work this week. The reason I was cranking out so many conversations was because I was off work for a month, and I just said, I'm just going for this.
Nice.
I'm just going. So I actually the last 2 weeks, but I had like an orientation, and now I'm back on the the nursing life. So anyways, let's get into some things here, some truly strange happenings happening in this little corner of the internet, TLC. Gonna run down some stuff before we get to the big news. We're gonna spend some time talking about Jordan B. Peterson tonight and his conversation with Alex O'Connor, formerly known as the Cosmic Skeptic. And he's been kind of playing with the religiously affiliated and faithfully connected people lately a lot.
Yeah, it feels like formerly Cosmic Skeptic is becoming capitalized. Like he's really kind of trying to downplay that a little bit. I mean, it's still a nice name, good branding and all that, but yeah.
We'll get there. So I've got a few highlights from this little corner of the internet. I want to make mention that Sam Tiedemann on Transfigured is going hard with his Unitarianism. He's been doing a lot of explicitly Unitarian history. So shout out to Sam from Transfigured on his channel. I do think that there is, even in the nature of what we were talking about with Jordan Peterson, there's this kind of move from the implicit to the explicit. I think it's kind of, Russell Brand last week, moving from the implicitly spiritual to the explicitly religious, I feel like that is something happened. I want to say that Grim Grizz, I went over and peeked over on his channel, and his thumbnail was Butter My Biscuit, and with a video title, Without Mirror. And I don't know all the secret languages that he went into with his memetics, but I did see that one of the clip he was focusing on was of Alex O'Connor's probing Jordan Peterson on probably the part about the the
Yeah.
standard videotape resurrection and what's on
Yep.
paper. I had some really wild thoughts about that. Kale Zeldin at the Kale Zeldin. Hey Nathan Franco at the Kale Zeldin. Uh, he interviewed a Rob Dreher this week about Rob's new book, and they did discuss very strange things in his book. I didn't get enough research here to go hard on the details, but
Sorry.
conversations. They did a live stream actually of their
Yeah.
conversation, and Rod has formerly Catholic, now is Orthodox, and they were just discussing the real strangeness of our faith, and this kind of connects with what Paul Vanderklay's been covering on with the Carlos Erie, I think that's his name. She Flew, talking about the
Oh yeah,
nuns
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
levitated, and it's kind of leaning in again to the explicitly strange and weird. And so that was some of their conversation. I want to make mention that Chad from the Friday Morning Nameless. What's up? Day so also Alex.
Okay, yeah. There
Uh,
you go.
uh,
Okay.
with Chad on the Friday morning last week, end of last week on Grail Country, he came in just very upset. I don't know how I want to describe it other than, Chad was being passionately disgruntled about certain things in like this little subculture community, and Chad from Friday Morning Nameless. And we all he was being human and he was treated as such, and I thought that was really cool. Coming into a digital space where people are sometimes we're so concerned about this is going to be recorded or this is on the internet, and he just came out kind of cursing and saying, what the f do y'all think you're doing, and he was just kind of embraced, you know. What are we all doing? And it stirred up some interesting things. And then this week he came out with his I don't have he's been doing a lot of AM streams, just early morning conversations, but he did a conversation with Matthew Parlato and unpacked Matthew's story. And so if you haven't heard, but if some people that watch this have seen Matthew around the corner, but he's got an interesting, kind of a storied past, very colorful past, incarceration and such. And they walk down his story. It's worth taking a look at. So those are some of the high points. Paul Vanderklay basically on vacation from YouTube this week. His son's getting married, and he is performing the ceremony. So they've had a busy week.
Yeah, and he missed almost a 24? No, it was a 12 hours, almost 12-hour stream.
Yeah, that's a good lead in. So
Yeah.
it ended up being 15-hour stream, ending on Twitter from Grail Country, and they're back at it. I think they're going hard.
Still going.
That's probably where some of the people that might be watching this live are hanging out over there.
Yeah, that's all right.
Vacillate back and forth.
Hey, yeah, you guys can multi-stream. Come on.
Yeah, this is the 21st century. So, yeah. Multi-stream.
Well, yeah. And so,
do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it was just, I popped in for literally 15 minutes, which was like 1/10 of 1% of their live stream. So it doesn't count for really anything. But I do think I would like to follow up with some of the folks in that live stream based off the conversation that I heard. So TBD.
What was the conversation?
It was the part of the conversation on Mormonism, which I find fascinating because as a missionary myself for a number of years, I came into a lot of contact with the LDS Church and had some interesting experiences. And as I look at the sort of the theme of transhumanism that is sort of popping up even in amongst the AI conversation, it's fascinating for me because essentially the Mormon doctrine is a transhumanist ideology. Man can become God that idea. And so if you look at some of what the LDS Church has been doing, that the nativity video in New York, do you remember that?
I'm not sure.
They bought every single billboard in Times Square at midnight on Christmas Eve. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful video.
Yeah, I think I watched it. I
And I
think I
want to say it was 3 or 4 minutes long, something like that. It was a long video. Well done.
mm-hmm.
Can you imagine how expensive it is to buy every
Much
single
time.
billboard on Times Square for 4 minutes?
That's expensive.
And it was, for the most part, it was, oh my gosh, this is Jesus. This is amazing. This is awesome. And at the very end, brought to you by the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints. That's all it was. Now, the interesting thing about this, sorry, you didn't really ask all of this, but the interesting thing about this is there were some people in sort of Christian circles that were like, oh my gosh, that was like the LDS Church did that and whatever. And it was like, you know what? They're not trying to evangelize the unreached people who like are searching for Jesus. That was an evangelistic technique to reach disenfranchised Christians.
I wonder if it's whenever what that makes me think of is not necessarily disenfranchised. I mean, to me, it speaks more of trying to become more accepted as a mainstream.
Yeah.
That's what it would kind of point to me, completely leaving
Yeah.
out any of the other stuff. But yeah, I don't know that I'm trying to figure out the connection to that and transhumanism. But the interesting thing, Mike, I'll look.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I had a conversation this week. It'll be out probably next week or the next with a Jeremy Firth, who was he may have been involved in that conversation with you.
Yeah, I want to talk to Jeremy. Yeah, he's
And
one of the guys I want to talk
yeah,
to.
so we did I think I even saw that a little bit of y'all's exchange on one of the live chats I saw. So yeah, we did a conversation this week. We didn't really hit Mormonism hard. It was we covered other stuff, but that I was going to point to Jeremy Firth.
Yeah.
Everyone be looking out for that. So yeah, the Grail Country there. Apparently, like Jacob Federecci of the Jordan Peterson Sphere alternate TLC world, they found some commonality in that he's had a vision of a 24-hour continuous, like just chatting type thing. So seeing that kind of keep going maybe was kind of exciting for him. I saw him in there for a lot of for a lot of the stream yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think anything else that I was going to hit on that. What about?
I will say,
you? Yeah, go ahead.
Disol coming out of lurkerdom.
Yeah,
I
right
thought
here.
that was.
I don't know if he's still with us, but he's comments.
And Alex. I mean, I think I tweeted this. I can't remember if it was public or just between me and Christian, but it was just like I was watching his video, the two that he put out, and I was just like, I don't know, man. Like I've never heard Alex speak before. I've seen him in chat, but it's like I've never heard him speak before, and yet I'm listening to him and I'm going, why do I feel so like connected to this person? Like Alex and I have never interacted other than like when I saw I was like, okay, I feel like I remember that name, and then I saw the whatever, the icon or whatever, which is funny. But then as I was listening to him talk, he was talking about your and my live stream, and I was like, oh, that's where it was.
Yeah, from your channel last week.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's right. I invited you. Yeah, that's what it was. And it was like, oh yeah, okay. I remember Alex coming in and commenting, and I don't know, dude. There's something about that that just it was touching. Like I guess that's what I'll say.
Well, you were a part of inspiring him. Like that's real.
Yeah. So okay, so there's part of that is part of the connection. But before he mentioned us. It was like, because you had posted something on Twitter that was just the first little like 2-minute clip or something
He
like
was
that. And
like going through a list of his pipeline and then the people that had inspired him to
yeah,
come out of lurkerdom.
yeah, I was just like listening. And I'm like, I was 2 seconds in, I was enraptured. I was like, I need to listen to whatever all of this is. I don't know how long it's going, but I'm like stopping what I'm doing to listen to Alex. And and you took the video down, and I was like confused for a while. So there you go. There's
Yeah,
that.
because it
Not
was
to
a
not
screen grab, and I the one that I had to like go back. When you
sorry,
get a
not to
text,
out you.
you always get a text when you're trying to do a screen grab, and then
Of
like
course,
I didn't want that person's
of course, of
whatever, so
course.
I like backed up, and then I meant to clip that part, from
Right.
I went ahead and just it was like hours later, and I
Yeah.
need to upload that.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
it
what
was it
happened.
was good, and I'm glad. Like I was like, okay. So I took after it went down, I just was looking for Alex's channel and looking for where you got that, and so good on you for seeing that. I don't know if he tagged us or
No,
you. I didn't.
it was algorithm, and
That is
I don't think he tagged me. He might have tagged me in the description, but he mentioned me, and so I think it fed it to me. And when I looked at it, I think maybe only Upcycle had like possibly seen it. I can't remember. Like one comment, no subscribers, and I was like, and this happened to me, and this happened like
yeah,
to you. Like I was like, I want to
yeah.
support this, and I did that with John Strader, I think was his name. He went to Symbolic World, and I had him on the
Mhm.
podcast because it's kind of that same thing. And so, I mean, Pete, to your getting that, like being a part of encouraging people, like because he mentioned you specifically in that
Mhm.
engagement. So I think, yeah, I would think that that's one reason why it felt so connected. So I mean, you got anything coming up this week or you want to highlight from this past week? We did our conversation. You had me on for a little bit talking about music.
Yeah. Oh man, the music thing is still part. I'm still going with that, and yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I am downshifting a little bit just as we go into summer. I think I might have to rely on more live streams. I don't know how many videos. I've made a sort of a commitment to myself. I did this podcast for a year, and then I kind of did a year in review, thinking, okay, do I continue? And then this year it was like, okay, we're good, we're solid, like we can do this. It was at a crazy time because I moved my whole family, and it's weird because this in some strange way ties into what we just talked about with TLC, is that a sense of belonging
Mhm.
is connected to this. And for probably a year, I had this idea for the Strange Theology podcast. I even, if you look at my channel, it's a year older than it really is. So it will say that I started whatever X year, but I didn't upload a video for a full year. So I had the Strange Theology channel name reserved because I was just listening to Joe Rogan. I was listening to all this stuff, and I knew eventually I wanted to do a podcast, but I wasn't in the right place. We were renting. My family was in between a lot of stuff. I kind of got the sense that I was on the way out of one job and possibly looking for another. And what's interesting is when I found the house, when we found this house that we're in right now, something just clicked. It was like, it's time. And I know behind me, the scene is not that special, but there's this little finished part of the attic that the former homeowners built that's literally just like a little podcast studio in the waiting. And so I kind of said, okay, I talked to my wife and said, I think I'm going to, do this. But I want to be sensitive to timing and just how much work, anyway. So there's that. And as I think through that whole process in this year, this summer might be, because that was a lot. It was a lot to move into this house and start a podcast at the same time, basically. And it has been transformative. I will just say that, which actually takes us a little bit. We're not quite to the Joe Rogan, Alex O'Connor conversation, but I think there's something about podcasting that allows people to think through their own ideas, sift them in a community, and hear feedback, so that they can look at those ideas and kind of go, maybe I'm full of crap here. Like maybe I need to adjust something here. And what's funny is so many people in that process are adjusting and correcting course and finding Jesus.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like,
let's put that was that video that you did about kind of off the Chris Williamson
yeah,
thing. I'm becoming the stereotypical
podcast
podcaster
bro arc is what
that
he said.
is
Is I'm going to go to
trying
church.
out church. Yeah, man. So I just want to say that this past week I had a conversation with Graham Pardun that I posted, who it walks. He's actually was in Orthodoxy for 13 years, and he's kind of walking out of it. So within a lot of the discourse on corner of Orthodox is the next great thing, he's finding himself out. His book was published by Martin Shaw's publishing house,
Okay.
and it was like endorsed by Paul Kingsnorth. And then he kind of, it's like Easter, it's called Easter Lilies or something, how Eastern Orthodox is a radical counterculture for America. And and after he got it published, he's like, I think I don't know. And so he told me his story, and he's kind of, he actually saw me on Paul doing a live stream, and Paul Vanderklay, and reached out to me. And so we had a cool conversation. And then I had a conversation with Bryce Carlisle, who was a Presbyterian turned Baptist. So we don't see many like Baptist people, like vocalized Baptist playing in the corner. And he came out. And so I thought that was an important conversation because of that. And we talked about baptism, as a result in that conversation. This was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so anyways, and then coming up for me, I've got a conversation with Matthew Parlato that we did a few weeks back, that I'm releasing the day after or 2 days after Chad's. And I've been meaning to get it out there, and I haven't. And then I actually have another repeat conversation with Brendan Graham Dempsey coming up, and I'll get that yawn.
Dude,
that yawn.
Try to catch it.
And
it's
10:30. I know. And then the other piece of that is our stream that you and I did on your channel this week led me to then I was bumping into Drew's Ecology on Twitter with you.
Yeah.
That. And then I reached out to him for a conversation. So that'll be.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, I've also thought that maybe you and Food Truck Emily, have you guys done the conversation?
No, we haven't. We probably need to.
Okay. I wanted to try to tie Food Truck Emily, and your last name is hard. I apologize. I feel like music, that conversation is such a good conversation to be having right now.
Well, that's what Drew was saying. He feels like it's a little bit, he sees music as a like an ontological apologetic, like for the reality of spiritual things and God.
Yeah.
And so we had a really cool conversation about that.
So I was sitting down at lunch with the guy who volunteers as our youth band director. Mm-hmm. And we were just kind of going over the year and kind of like planning, summer and then like leading into the next school year. And I kid you not, he said something that was in that Twitter thread. He was like, music like captures you in a way that you're outside of time. And I'm like, are you reading my Twitter thread? And it was just like, yeah, you're right, man. And one of the things I was talking to him about is just how important I think it is for music to be a part of the spiritual formation of young people, Yeah. And Drew, I think where does he teach? He teaches
Tunisia, Africa.
That is so awesome.
And he has like I think a PhD in like Eastern music and studies. So he has like the West and the East because he's classically trained saxophonist, and so he's just trying to get like a full picture of culture as much as possible culturally about what kind of asking that what is music.
Yeah. Well, and I think doesn't he teach younger people, right?
Yeah, choir and music for like international school.
That is going to be great, man. That is I'm looking forward to that.
That was thanks to you bringing me on.
That's great.
That's perfect. Where that kind of. So yeah, man. Well, let's transition into kind of a little bit culture at larger.
All right.
Larger culture. And if you're out there, we've got a few people hanging in there tonight. Let us know you're there. Say a comment. Say hi. We'll say something funny. We'll put it in here. So yeah, man. We mentioned earlier, Paul Vanderklay PVK has been kind of light this week. The week that Jordan Peterson. We'll keep getting there. We're going to end on that. The other piece is this is just a two little bullet points, actually three. ARC is trying to fire up their YouTube content, which is the Alliance of Responsible Citizenship. Hey, Pseudobotheus dropped in to say hi. Hi, CB. Hi, Pete, the stranger. And so ARC is, which is the Alliance of Responsible Citizen. It looks like they're trying to do some original content, which is Jordan Peterson's kind of big brainchild, kind of Western civilization think tank. Unheard podcast this last week with Alex O'Connor and Elizabeth Oldfield and Justin Brierley. Did you see that? Did you tune into some of that?
I saw a little bit of what Paul
clips. Yeah.
Clip from it.
But
yeah.
Elizabeth brought just a beautiful perspective of this kind of, I felt like she kind of brought the appropriate meta perspective that is transcending and looking at like Christianity, what we've been missing parts of it, but like holding the whole, I don't know, but it's worth looking back if anyone on here hasn't seen it. And then the last kind of small bullet point is Jonathan Peugeot's house gets hit by a meteorite and he decides to have a midlife crisis and start skateboarding again.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
I think that's what happened. A meteorite like goes over somewhere in South America, lands in Canada as a very small pebble.
Yep.
And and then he's he's like, well, I could have been completely hit by a meteorite this week. I guess I better skateboard before I can't anymore.
Right, before I actually get. Can I just say that I called that shot?
Did you?
I did. Okay, let me see if I can even, because, and maybe Twitter, whatever, helped me connect the dots. But it was like, I'm seeing this meteor going over like Spain or whatever it was.
And you said that's going to hit Jonathan Peugeot.
Yeah, I was like, hey. And then I saw Jonathan Peugeot post, like, I don't know, it was like 20 minutes later or something like that. He was like, hey, something weird happened. Like this thing hit my house. And then I just posted on the platform formerly known as Twitter.
I think I saw your tweet and you're like, I think that it's the
one from so
Venezuela.
Look, okay, let's see. I know I'm going to present at some point, but I feel I need to go, I need to go on record as like, let's see, which one is it? Okay. Can I?
Yes. We're adding to the stage.
Okay. So I said, it doesn't tell me the time. Oh, it does. 8:45. Okay. So at 8:45, I said, is this the rock that hit Jonathan Peugeot's house? And for context, and then Jonathan Peugeot's post was at 6:29. Okay, so whatever.
I don't know where he lives.
Somebody math. Yeah, I know. Figured it was like middle of Canada. Like I don't know. And because he posted that at 6:29, and then I was like, hey, you guys are all like up in arms about this meteorite. Didn't you realize that Jonathan Peugeot's house was hit by a little rock, a little space rock?
He had it looked at, and they, I think, concluded it's likely that's what it was. But then the funny thing is he then like shows a video of him like doing
skateboarding,
like quarter pipes, and I thought he's having a midlife crisis. And what's even funnier is that he did a whole symbolic treatment of skateboarding as like the chariot and all this like on his video this today. So I thought he said that's kind of a lighthearted thing, and I think that's kind of nice.
It is nice. Have didn't he say that his brother
Matthew was even better than he is?
So was it Matthew that he was talking about? Matthew is, and I don't know. I don't know if I stop sharing that or you can stop sharing it. Who's got control of this live stream? Because then I'm gonna share this other one, which is gonna be fire. So that's Matthew. Matthew is a hardcore. That's what
skateboarder. I saw. So there was some comment or something on there, but I
thought maybe there was another brother there.
So one more before we get to
go for
Alex. We finish out, but Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan. Did you happen to watch that whole thing?
All right. Okay. You want my take?
Holy shit. Yeah,
Okay,
dude.
there's another brother. Okay.
Terrence Howard.
Uh,
Oh, it's a
okay,
different
that's what
brother.
I thought. I was like, Matthew does not strike me as like a skateboarder. There
This
is
is
another
like the
brother.
Jonas brothers, like the little Jonas that nobody knows about, and then but there's Matthew and
Can we please get
oh
the
no, look,
skateboarding
the
Peugeot
third brother is
online?
X Games Pro. Symbolism happens, baby.
Can we
Symbolism happens.
shout out like out of? Can you come
Thank
out
you,
of
Racco.
lurkerdom? Young? Is it younger Peugeot, older Peugeot? Where do you fit in the
He's
Peugeot
the one videotaping Jonathan.
tetrarchy? Come out of lurkerdom so we know. Okay, here's what needs to
He only
happen.
exists as a symbol.
Okay, John. Now I could be totally wrong. Jonathan strikes me as an older brother. The way he talks to Matthew, he's like, I can't call you Matthew. I can't say it in English. Matthew. It's
I
just
don't
like this
know.
older brother thing.
I have no idea which one's old. They were like both kind of going through stuff together though, like with their
Is
symbolic.
Jonathan the young? Oh yeah, is the X gamer the youngest?
says
That's
he's-
what it would strike me.
I think
it was the extreme sports would be the younger brother. That's a very younger
Sure.
brother thing. But
I
so
think-
maybe Matthew is old. Anyway,
I know that Jonathan's very defensive of him.
that's an older brother thing.
Yeah. So let's see. But Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan.
Oh right. Why did we give it? Okay.
We went because of the comments. We went back to it. But
Anyway, what needs to happen
Nice to
is
know both of you.
Jonathan Peugeot and his younger brother need to have a skate off. It's like horse for basketball, but you play skate. You do a trick, and if the other person can't do it, they get an S. And yeah, okay. So can we just have that Peugeot brothers? Can we just have that? And
I was pretty impressed with his quarter pipe turn and with his bailout. Like,
and there was a grind. There was a grind going on as he did that. So, or I think that was the one where he fell. He tried to grind.
Yeah, but it was cool. I'm glad he put the fall in there. Like,
of course, yeah, that's great.
And I noticed he had like on no pads, and I was like, we're gonna see in a few weeks. We're gonna see
how he feels.
He's gonna have a sling in one of his videos. He's gonna have a sling on, and
he's just gonna get those stem cell injections.
Oh, that's true.
Jordan Peterson's gonna hook him up with a freaking IV of stem cells. He's gonna be fine.
Jonathan, you're gonna be good in 2 days.
They're gonna get him ready for that Joe Rogan appearance that he's about to have.
Yeah, so. I'm sure that's coming. So on that note, actually, I'll add this in is that so Dirt Poor Robins, Neil deGrade, who's kind of another musical guy. He actually has a episode with Karen Wong's Meaning Code with Musicology, where I was doing a little prep work and watching that. And so Neil deGrade is opening up for Jordan Peterson, his band Dirt Poor Robins, of the next couple of shows. I'm sure
that'd be cool.
I think he even said something about Jonathan having part to play in that. But they did a show at Symbolic World.
Yeah, the Peugeot brothers were in Nashville when I was there. He said Jonathan was there. And he said Jonathan and his brothers, I think, or something like that. Or
I got to do the one in Nashville. Hipster, be cool place. Nashville.
Yeah, does
But we got to get to Terrence Howard. Did you watch any of the Terrence Howard thing?
Yes.
It kind of, I thought it was cool. It was a lot of fun. It was trippy, and there were interesting things.
It was cool. It was trippy. And anybody that follows my podcast knows that I have not commented on it yet. I don't think I will. It's just too weird to navigate. The one piece that I thought I would pull out of there is when they start talking about the church. And it's like, I'm so frustrated by this. It's like people say like, oh, the church. And then they throw out this sort of like whatever quote unquote institutional Christianity that, at least for me as a person who believes he is a member of the church, I think that has nothing to do with what the actual church is. And I just get so frustrated that people then take that and sort of lump what I think the body of Christ is actually doing in with like, whatever the corruption of the quote unquote institutional church has been through the history.
There was actually a few, he would be like, well, if you want to do the biblical thing, and he actually was giving, it was because he actually was juxtaposing some of his arguments from like a type of biblical perspective, actually. So it's kind of both and, like, oh,
Yeah,
science
yeah. He wasn't.
surprise, boo. But then, like, well, if you look at some of the stuff in Genesis, kind of, anyways. I mean,
Which is great, and I think, yeah, having that, but it's just I do think that part of the conversation within the public square has to be a realization that you cannot judge a belief system by those people who abuse that system for their own power.
uh-oh.
That's I get very frustrated by.
Well,
It's like
yeah,
this is not what you've just jumped out of what Christianity actually is, and pseudo-atheist is talking about, like, yeah, the church is the people. It's not this political religious structure.
not the Christendom.
It's the people who live consistently with the gospel of Jesus Christ. They live like Christ. Those are the church. And even in my, I don't know if it's in my denomination, but at least in my congregation, we talk about the sort of the invisible and the visible church. I don't know how to quite unpack that, but it's just like there's this sense that God is.
How do you do that? I think to the way to our culture, like, how do you make that distinction? I think it
would be a hard one to make.
Yeah, from that perspective, I don't
it feels like some sort of philosophical, golden parachute where anything you throw at the church, I can just say, well, that's not the church.
And vice versa. Everything is that exactly, the church is all these bad things. So, we've got about 15 minutes left on the show, and I want to kind of turn it over to you. We can pull up your Twitter, and let's unpack.
Okay, you want
to and Jordan Peterson.
Let's see, is this the right? No, that's not the right one. It's the Jordan Peterson one. We'll share that bad boy.
Jordan Peterson, Alex O'Connor for the algorithm incantation.
There. Jordan Peterson. We have just been talking about Joe Rogan, and now we're going to be talking about Jordan Peterson and Alex O'Connor.
That one.
I don't know. See, I don't know how to do this without getting you completely. I don't know if it will ban you. This is fun. We're just dancing around. The little screens are dancing around. No, just go like that. Yeah, I'll just comment. You give the facial reaction.
Ooh.
Okay, so if I play this, I don't know if you'll get a notification on YouTube that, like, I don't know, we're stealing content or something like that. But here, so I just
You're live though for the 10 people watching this. It's just going to happen.
It's just going to happen. Yeah. And we could deal with the consequences afterwards. But it does seem like if you filter it through the platform formerly known as Twitter, YouTube doesn't flag you for it for whatever reason.
I'm hearing
there's a section about, it's probably within the first third, I think it's in the first 20 minutes or so of Jordan Peterson and Alex O'Connor's conversation that I thought it started to get really important because it has to do with Martin Shaw. It has to do with some of this conversation. I'm just going to ignore what's happening on the screen in front of me, hopefully. It has to do with this conversation about story, the nature of reality. And I think Jordan Peterson honestly should talk to Louis Markos. Markos, he wrote a book called The Myth Made Fact, and just stay tuned, okay? Lou may become a person. You might want to incorporate him into your worldview as you begin to navigate some of this stuff. Myth Made Fact, from Socrates to Christ, I think is the other book. He was on I heard him on Michael Heiser's podcast, the Naked Bible podcast. Friend of Nancy Pearcey. They both work at the same college institution. Anyway, Jordan Peterson should really interview Lou because it has to do with what he's talking about right here. We'll see. I don't want it to play on YouTube. I want it. Oh, okay. I don't know if you guys are hearing this. You're not seeing it. I don't know why it doesn't want to stay on YouTube. Maybe my link is bad. I just want it to play on Twitter, but it won't. Sorry.
Da da da. Back. And this is back. Are we almost there? We're getting close.
A lot of Christians. Yeah, but I know that a lot of Christians are frustrated.
Hold on. What are you hearing? Because I'm totally hearing
I
it.
only heard it for a second. I only heard it for like half a second.
So when I hit the link, when I try to play the clip, it, you know how like usually you could what?
Send me the link in the chat and let me see if I can make it work.
Well, okay, I can send you. Let's see. Can I share the clip? Yeah, I can share you the clip. I don't know.
Well, we can ask the people if they could hear it.
Yeah, you because usually it will play, and maybe because I use OBS.
It might be my sound the way I have mine sound up.
But it's jumping to YouTube rather than playing the clip in X. So, and I think that's what's messing you guys up. No, okay. So Alex says no. Smoke him if you got him.
Bring the. We really love you, Chad.
Yo, Chad, man, I'm sorry that I've been so absentee, man. I am
No
like
apologies. Just be here now.
I'm here now. I'm here now, Chad.
So,
I'm here now. I see you. I see you, man.
Do you don't think the clip's gonna work?
Well, for
should I go look it up or send
maybe I don't know if you want to try looking at my
private chat. Send me a link.
I just did, brother. It's there.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay,
that's what that is, brother.
Brother, my brother. Share screen. Oops. Why is that a oops? Is that it is a dead link?
No,
Something went wrong.
So when I click on it, man,
we gotta just go with it. Go to your Twitter and then let's talk through it.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, well, okay, I'll just share with you the clip. I mean, I'll just share my screen. I can't share the clip, unfortunately. I don't know why.
Because we're sorry. Lame.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry, y'all.
Yeah, we need to.
Yo, you know what? Yeah. Okay, so the first part of the question is it's Christianity. Alex O'Connor is kind of pushing Jordan Peterson on the fact that anytime someone tries to press him on, hey, do you believe in God? Do you believe in the actual resurrection of Jesus? Jordan always has this kind of really clever way of saying, well, what do you mean by actually? What do you mean by resurrect? And then it is a little bit of a, I don't want to say weaselly because I don't mean to be negative. I think Jordan is really intent on his definitions. I think he's intent on his process, and he really doesn't want to abdicate to someone else's presuppositions about a thing and then try to answer that question assuming their presuppositions. He's like, well, help me understand. So I don't think he's trying to be weaselly, but Alex really does push him on this thing. He's just like, look, you got to really, say what you mean. And so the question is it myth or is it historical fact? And I think the answer is that it's both. And that's where I think Lou Marcos will come in. That's where I think Martin Shaw comes in. Francis Schaeffer will tell you that, Jesus, he has a clever way of saying it, but it's like in real space time, Jesus died and rose again. Does that mean that the stories that are written about Jesus are not written like stories? No, they're written like stories. And Martin Shaw, I think, points out something that is really interesting. I thought I put that clip quote in there. Oh, Martin Shaw says that myths are stories without the use of facts. They tell deeper truths than the facts of the matter. And so Jordan in this clip, and I'm sorry guys, you can look at it on my X account, whatever is Strange Theology or whatever on X. Sorry, I can't play the clips. Sort of, and Jordan has a point here where he says it's impossible to separate the historical Jesus, and I guess if I understand him correctly, I would agree with that. Jesus, there's something deeper going on when we're talking about the person of Jesus, the fact that he's the Word made flesh, and so I think Martin Shaw, his quote that actually comes from the Seen and Unseen interview, and then in the next clip, and this all happens within like a 20-minute section of their dialogue. I thought it was really good. Jordan points out that the Bible is a collection of books, and the amount of sort of hyperlinking that the Bible goes through. He doesn't say this, but I think in my own language, I would just say it's a miracle. There's no 66 books and 40 authors over 1,500 years who could create such interplay within their works.
Years.
What's that?
More than 1,500 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm giving sort of conservative, ideas there, but and I don't know, like I've seen numbers it's over 63,000 times. I've seen it as high as several 100,000. The Bible is a miraculous book in its ability to communicate
I don't think
the story.
That either of them deny that.
Right.
That's the thing that's fascinating is Alex's growing respect for the biblical corpus.
Yeah.
To put it in Petersonian terms. And also, I think the thing that stuck out to me was there was a section where Peterson said, something like, if you ask me if I believe that Jesus is the fulfillment of the law and all the prophecies,
right.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Right.
That's the quote. That's the one I quoted on Twitter. I was like,
okay, but there's an interesting thing about that.
Well, yeah, but I just want to hit the other point where he asked him about the resurrection. Do you think that probably happened? Well, yeah, I do think it. I think that it probably did. And I'm like, okay, where are we at now?
Yes. So this is the Twilight Zone episode that you have found yourself in. Alex O'Connor has converted Jordan Peterson to Christianity. Yeah. Like he pushed him. The conversation was really good. Oh, yeah. And I the more I listen to Alex O'Connor, the more I appreciate him. I can see why Paul Vanderklay enjoys his stuff. And he's not a Richard Dawkins. I think that if so maybe we'll get to that, but I think if Richard Dawkins would start a podcast, we might see his ideological sort of principalities start to shift.
Oh man. Well, and O'Connor did a conversation with him recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was and it was funny because it was like, they're both technically like atheists or whatever, but you see that Alex is really just undermining a lot of what Richard Dawkins it sets himself on. And it's not a coincidence that was it several weeks, maybe a couple of months later, Dawkins was like, well, I'm basically a cultural Christian. It's like it was after that conversation with Alex O'Connor.
That's how powerful we don't think what Anya Hersey Ali, like that's a personal relationship.
Yeah.
That's a relationship and there's other cultural things happening in Great Britain that are that weren't affecting him 20 years ago, when he was really starting to rise. So there's a lot at play with that. But to that conversation from today, I just was sitting there. It's like everyone's waiting for that moment. And they both talk about how it seems like most people, when they're pressing Jordan Peterson on his, what he believes, that it's so you can be on my team or you're no longer on this team. And Alex O'Connor tries to act like he's the he doesn't have a dog in the game, but I don't think that's exactly true when he said
Yeah.
that. But
Okay.
if he could be the one that
point.
cracks that moment, which he kind of did. But I think he also he started Alex started the conversation saying something very interesting. He's like, I've grown tired of trying to debate people.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
always feeling like I'm here to debate. He's like, I'm actually with the podcast. This is changing me. He said it is changing me. It's changing his identity. He doesn't want to be a skeptic. He wants to learn from and about people.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And I just was like, wow. And so he's more interested in Jordan Peterson, the person, than he is Jordan Peterson, Christian, non-Christian,
The idea.
atheist, non-atheist.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the right thing.
Yeah.
I think that is, and as a result, I think it set a tone for that conversation that was unlike a lot of conversations that Peterson's had about faith, like when he's being pressed by a Catholic representative or other people in the past, or people that are trying to debate him in the past, that it opened up an opportunity for some open dialogue for him about his thoughts. What did you think about, because this will go back to, as we're kind of like last thoughts here, what did you think about him when he's talking about that modern Christians and modern atheists are both asking the same question about did the Israelites walk out of Egypt? Did Jesus walk out of that they're actually asking the same question, that they're both looking for history, and that Peterson's like, that's secondary or tertiary for me. He didn't deny his parts of historicity, or O'Connor didn't deny that there was a real Jesus of Nazareth and that kind of thing, but that there's something more going on with this story. So, see you, Chad. Thanks for coming and hanging out. And I think that's been what Peterson's been trying to say all along, that there's something more to this story than just what even we want to meet our eye, or something like that. I don't know. And
well, I mean, there was that part where Alex kind of was like, it's sort of clever to say that when Israel walked out of Egypt, they had their exodus, and it's still happening. He's like, he didn't say this, but it's like you've sort of jumped into the metaphorical, but people are asking you about the historical. Did Jesus rise from the grave? It's still happening. Okay, you've kind of switched the parameters so that you can ask a different question. And I don't know, like, I will say this, my whole conversion to Christianity was a process. And the moment for me that struck me was I was actually reading the book, The Case for Christ, in Papua New Guinea. And I can remember this. I can remember the room that I was in. I can remember, like, the scene before me. I'm reading this book, and I'm realizing, it was like, okay, if I was there, if I was in the garden that morning, I would have seen him. Like, if I was in the garden that morning, I would have seen him. And then it was like the scene turned around, and then I realized, like, oh, he wasn't just there then. He's also here now. That was the thing for me. It was like, in a way, because he was there then, he is here now. And I don't know if that's exactly what Jordan is talking about, but for me, that moment felt like a conversion experience for me. I think that I had a long process of finding Christian, or I don't know if I found, like, did I find him? He found me. I don't.
Yeah, I did.
But that was the moment for me, because like I had friends who were like, quote unquote, radically saved, and they had this like conversion experience that they would talk about, and I was always kind of like, well, I kind of just feel like this makes more sense out of the world, and I didn't have like a big emotional conversion experience. But reading that historical evidence for the resurrection, and having that sort of projected into my imagination in a room in Papua New Guinea, and then realizing like that affects my present like reality, it was like almost like an out of body experience. Like it was pretty powerful. like in a good way, not in like a disorienting way, but like in a way of like, oh, I've been disoriented and now I'm oriented. I've found sort of like a through line or something. Well, and I mean, essentially, I've found a person. Like that's the thing. Like for me, it was always like the answer of Christianity is not an answer; it's a person. And that's why maybe Jordan is struggling with well, just give me like the archaeological evidence. It's like, well, it's not just the archaeological evidence. The archaeological evidence or the historical evidence or the whatever is really pointing to something even more real than if you were to find, let's say we were to discover conclusively that the Shroud of Turin was the burial cloth of Jesus. Let's just say that. We just like, boom, we know, like proven fact. That still would be in a sense, a small part of a much bigger reality. We would look at that physical object and say, oh my gosh, it's here in physical form, but the here in physical form is really pointing us to something greater than itself.
Not to diminish the resurrection, but if that physical moment is the only part of the story, like that it's a central part, but it's not like the only, like the story continues.
Yeah.
And that it is it's a massive climactic plot point, but it is, and I think that's what's interesting. I've continued to find interesting about Jordan Peterson is what he brought forward. Yeah. Other people have said these things. Mm-hmm. Other people have believed them, but because of the very thing that we're playing on tonight, because of YouTube, he brought it forward into the consciousness about and resurrected a mode to engage with Scripture in a way that doesn't like leave behind literal and historical fact and ideas about Scripture, but it enhances. Mm-hmm. It's enhanced it for so many people.
Yeah, and I think that's what Louis Marcos, Martin Shaw, C.S. Lewis. I think that they're pointing to that. It's like the fact that he's
still a scientist, and they are actual mythic. I don't know about the Louis Marcos guy, but the other two are mythic people, mythic authors, and.
Yeah, well, I mean, what they're pointing to is that the historical and the mythological are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Just because something is myth doesn't mean it's not history. It's really pointing to a deeper history. If we just look at the archaeological evidence, then we only see part of the picture. Just like if we were just looking at the material world, we would only see part of reality.
Yeah, and maybe a smaller part than we realize. Yeah. I think that's kind of the point. And that all the impetus was being put 20 years ago, all the impetus was being put if that's the thing for the non-believer and the believer. They were trying to put everything into that, and we talk about propositional tyranny and all this left-right brain and all. And I think this is kind of an unlocking at such a time in history that we probably need it related to things like generative AI and whatnot.
I mean, I think Ian McGilchrist's book, The Master and the Emissary Brain, came at the right time.
Yeah,
I'm still chipping my way through that.
Yeah, of course.
I think that, and you're touching on it because have you read? I
haven't read anything.
You haven't read a single thing. You just listen to podcasts. Come on. I'm just
trying to be honest.
It's Lewis' book from he goes into the in-between place.
The Great Divorce.
The Great Divorce. Thank you.
That is the one. It's like the one book I've read like 4 times.
Okay, so that's exactly it. He says that your whole world. What does he say? He said this. You came out of that little space between the blade of grass, right? This world could not fit into that world because that world is so small and this world is so big. It's like you're seeing a little bit of the full picture. And the amazing thing about story, and the amazing thing about why I think God revealed himself in story, is that it's a compression device.
There it is.
It allows for us to still have true truth
The whole
about that
thing,
big world, even
worship,
though we're only seeing a part of it.
worship is a compression. Our books and our stories are a compression of the transcendent.
Yep.
And that's how we, to take it back to Peterson as we're closing this thing out, is where does the metaphorical and the literal touch? And I think we say it's something probably like the creator God in the real and historical person of Jesus is the manifestation of something like the most transcendent and unexplainable and vast version of love that we could imagine. So that was for UCW Weeks, man. We're going to close this thing out. Pete, thanks for being here. People
Always.
hanging out in the chat. We had Pseudo Boethius and Racco. Y'all are kind of new hanging out. Chad showed up, and then Alex Luna hanging out in the chat with us again tonight. So anyways, man, we're gonna brand this thing out of here, and everyone have a really good night.